Human masters milking giant bug. Now the lonely alien milkmaid wants a turn. The transport pod malfunctioned spectacularly, shooting across the Andromeda sector like a drunken comet before crash. Landing on an uncharted agricultural moon, Eric Thornton stumbled from the smoking wreckage. His military raid emergency beacon crushed beyond repair. His shirt had been shredded during the violent descent, leaving his muscular torso exposed to the alien atmosphere. Got him budget fleet rental, he muttered. Kicking a piece of twisted metal, the company promised reliable transportation across the galaxy. Clearly another corporate lie. Eric ran a hand through his short light brown hair, his blue eyes scanning the strange landscape. The horizon stretched with rolling purple fields dotted with enormous dome-shaped structures. In the distance a farmhouse of some sort stood silhouetted against twin No-3 moons hanging low in the lavender sky. As Eric approached the nearest dome, he heard a peculiar humming sound. Curiosity overrode caution as he peered through a transparent section of the structure. Inside were dozens of massive insects, each the size of a small car, resembling ladybugs with iridescent shells that caught the light in hypnotic patterns. What the hell went my, he whispered, pressing closer to the barrier. Step away from my hive, came a melodic yet firm voice behind him. Eric spun around to find himself face to face with the most striking alien woman he'd ever encountered. Her slender form was covered in soft blue skin adorned with delicate white speckles that reminded him of stars, and Han on thick silvery hair cascaded down her back, framing a face with large almond-shaped eyes that shimmered with an inner light. Her form-fitting beige farming outfit accentuated curves that were surprisingly distractingly human-like. I'm sorry, Ashies, Eric said, raising his hands. My transport crashed, I'm stranded. The alien woman's expression shifted from suspicion to curiosity. A human this far into the outer rim? She circled him, her tall dark boots making no sound on the purple soil. I'm VA caretaker of this milk farm. Eric glanced back at the giant insects. Those things produce milk. VA's lips curved into what he assumed was a smile. Beetle milk is one of the most valuable substances in the galaxy, rich in nutrients and healing properties. She sighed, looking at the dome spread across her land. And I'm falling behind schedule without help. Eric noticed the exhaustion in her eyes. I'm Eric A. Keenum. I was headed to the mining colony on Proxima 4 before. He gestured to the smoking wreckage in the distance. The nearest outpost with transport capabilities is 2 weeks journey from here, VA said, adjusting her slim leather belt. The comm relay won't be online for another 10 days due to solar flare activity. Eric considered his options, which were essentially non-existent. I could help out while I'm stuck here. I grew up on a farm back on Earth. Violet's eyes widened. You'd work with the beetles? Most species find them unsettling. Eric shrugged his bare shoulders. I've milked stranger things. How different can it be? The alien woman's speckles seemed to glow slightly brighter. Very different, I assure you, but I'm desperate enough to accept your offer. She extended a four-fingered hand. Welcome to Stellar's Milk Farm, temporary human employee. The next morning Eric stood before a massive beetle, its shimmering carapace rising and falling with each breath. Vad demonstrated the milking technique, her slender blue fingers working with practiced precision along specific points on the creature's underside. The secretion glands are extremely sensitive, she explained. Too much pressure causes pain, too little yields nothing. You must find the perfect touch. Eric nodded, studying her movements. When his turn came, he approached confidently, placing his strong hands exactly where Violet had shown him. The beetle chittered contentedly as Eric found the rhythm, his fingers working with intuitive skill. Remarkable, Violet breathed, watching as the pearly liquid flowed freely into the collection vessel. I've never seen anyone adapt so quickly, especially a non-native species. Eric smiled, continuing his work with gentle, firm strokes. It's all about respecting the animal and understanding its needs. Violet's eyes lingered on his hands, then traced the contours of his muscular arms and bare chest. She quickly looked away when he caught her staring. We have 30 more to milk before midday, she said briskly, moving toward the next dome. Try to keep up, human. Eric grinned, wiping his hands on a cloth. Wouldn't dream of falling behind boss. As they worked side by side through the morning, Eric couldn't help noticing how Vio's gaze kept returning to him, particularly when he was handling the beetles. There was something in her expression, a mixture of professional appreciation and something else entirely, that made the alien heat of the strange moon feel even warmer against his skin. 3 days into Eric's unexpected employment at Stellaris Milk Farm, the routine had become almost comfortable. Each morning he'd rise with the alien son, joining Vioa for a breakfast of strange but delicious fruits before heading to the beetle domes. His natural talent with the creatures continued to impress, and the production numbers had nearly doubled Since his arrival, your technique is remarkable, Violet observed as they finished the morning milking her white. Speckles glowed faintly against her blue skin, something Eric had learned happened when she was excited or pleased. The beetles respond to you better than they do to me, and I've raised most of them from larvae. Eric shrugged, trying not to notice how the morning light played across Violet's silvery hair. Just got lucky, I guess. Good hands, he flexed his fingers with a smile. Vila's gaze lingered on those hands. Yes, very capable hands. The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither was ready to name. Eric cleared his throat. Should we move on to the eastern domes before Viola could answer? The distinct hum of an approaching hover vehicle broke the silence. A sleek, expensive-looking transport settled onto the purple soil nearby, and a tall, broad-shouldered alien emerged. His skin was the same blue as Vio's, though darker, and without speckles. He wore an elaborate farming outfit that seemed more decorative than functional. Viola, my dear neighbor, he called, his voice smooth as expensive liquor. I heard rumors of increased production and had to see for myself. His four eyes, too large, too small, fixed on Eric with obvious interest. And this must be the reason. Krell, Vio acknowledged stiffly. This is Eric Thornton. His transport crashed nearby. He's helping until he can arrange passage off-world. Krell approached, extending a hand in what was clearly a practiced imitation of human greeting. Krell Dovan, owner of Premium Beetle Farm's largest milk producer in the sector. He smiled at Eric, revealing teeth that seemed too numerous and too pointed until recently. That is, your output has been noteworthy. Eric shook the alien's hand, noting the firm grip. Just doing what I can to help out. Indeed. Krell's gaze traveled over Eric's bare torso with undisguised assessment. And doing it exceptionally well from what I hear. Tell me, human, what is Vio paying you for your services? Violet stepped forward. That's between Eric and me, of course, Krell said smoothly, but I wonder if he knows the true value of his skills. He turned to Eric. I'm prepared to offer you triple whatever Violet is paying, plus comfortable accommodations and a bonus based on production increases. Eric glanced at Viola, whose speckles had dimmed noticeably. I appreciate the offer, but I've already committed to helping here. Admirable loyalty, Krell said with a thin smile, but perhaps you should consider your options carefully. VA's operation is quaint. Mine is state-of-the-art. You could learn much about interstellar agriculture, and when transport becomes available, I could arrange passage to anywhere you wish to go. He produced a sleek communication device. My contact information. Think about it. After Krell departed, an uncomfortable silence fell between Eric and Vio as they continued their work. The easy rhythm they'd established felt disrupted. You should consider his offer, Violet finally said, not meeting Eric's eyes. Krell's operation is impressive, and he can pay far more than I can. Eric moved closer, his hand gently touching her arm. I'm not interested in Krell's money. Violet looked up, her large eyes searching his face. What are you interested in then? The question hung in the air between them, loaded with possibilities. Eric's hand moved from her arm to her face, his thumb tracing one of the luminescent speckles on her cheek. They glowed brighter at his touch. I'm interested in finishing what I started here, he said softly. With you. Ba's breath caught. Humans and Stellarians don't usually. That is, our physiologies are compatible enough. Eric finished, his voice low. I've studied xenobiology. Unless there's something you haven't told me. The speckles across Vio's skin pulsed with light. No, it's just unexpected. I've never. Neither have I. Not with someone from another world. His fingers trace patterns among her speckles, watching them glow brighter. But I'd like to try if you would, instead of answering with words. Violet leaned forward, pressing her lips against his in a tentative kiss. The sensation was electric, her lips cooler than a human's but softer, and the contact sent waves of tingling energy through his body. When they parted, Violet's entire body seemed to shimmer with light. The farmhouse, she whispered after we finished the eastern domes that evening. As the three moons rose over the purple fields, Eric followed Viola into her home. What followed was a discovery of differences and surprising similarities, of alien touches that somehow felt familiar, and human caresses that made Stellarian's skin glow like constellations in the aftermath. Lying together in the strange comfort of Violet's dwelling, Eric knew that Krell's offer, no matter how lucrative, held no appeal. The connection he'd found here, unexpected and profound, was worth more than any payment. Eric woke to the sensation of cool speckled skin against his chest. Ba lay curled against him, her silvery hair spread across his shoulder, her body emitting a soft pulsing glow that had illuminated the farmhouse bedroom throughout the night. The three alien moons cast strange shadows through the window, painting patterns across their intertwined forms. You're staring, Ba murmured without opening her eyes. Hard not to, Eric replied, tracing a finger along the constellations of her speckles. You Literally glow after Violet's eyes fluttered open a deeper blue than her skin. It's a stellar response to pleasure, the more intense the experience the brighter the glow. She propped herself up on one elbow studying him. I've never glowed this brightly before. Eric grinned. Chalk one up for humanity indeed. Her fingers traced the contours of his chest. Your species has many unexpected talents. Were full of surprises. He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. Speaking of which, we should probably get to the morning milking. Violet sighed reluctantly, pulling away. The beetles won't wait, especially the queens. They get irritable if their glands aren't emptied on schedule. They dressed quickly, stealing glances and touches that promised more to come later. The morning air carried a sweet earthy scent as they crossed the purple fields toward the beetle domes. Eric felt lighter than he had in years. Despite being stranded on an alien world, the serenity shattered when they reached the first dome. Violet gasped, rushing forward to press her hand against the transparent barrier. Inside, several beetles lay on their sides, their legs twitching spasmodically, their normally vibrant shells dulled to a sickly matte finish. Something's wrong, she whispered, her voice tight with fear. They were fine yesterday. Eric followed her into the dome, approaching the nearest distressed beetle. Its mandibles clicked weakly and a viscous fluid leaked from beneath its carapace. Have you ever seen anything like this before? Violet shook her head, her speckles dimming with distress. Never. The species is remarkably resilient to disease. Eric carefully examined the creature, gently lifting sections of its shell to peer underneath. His blood ran cold at what he found. These aren't symptoms of disease. Look here. He pointed to tiny wriggling organisms clustered around the beetle's milk glands. Parasites, and they have been deliberately introduced. What? How can you be sure? These parasites are too uniform in size and development stage. In a natural infestation you'd see various life cycles. These were all introduced at once. Eric's jaw tightened. Someone did this deliberately. VA's eyes flashed with sudden understanding. Krell has to be too coincidental otherwise. Eric straightened, his mind racing. We need to act fast. How many domes are affected? A quick inspection revealed that half the herd showed signs of infestation. The parasites were targeting the milk gland, specifically causing inflammation and contaminating the valuable liquid. This will ruin me, Viola said, her voice hollow as they returned to the farmhouse. Even if we save the beetles, the recovery time will put me months behind on my supply contracts. Krell will take my clients. Eric paced the kitchen, his military training kicking in. Not if we can prove he did this. That would violate interstellar agricultural regulations, wouldn't it? Yes, but proof is nearly impossible. He's too careful. Violet slumped into a chair. And meanwhile my beetles are suffering. Eric knelt before her, taking her hands in his. Then we focus on saving them first. A worry about Krell later. I studied entomology at university before joining the military. Earth insects have parasites too. The principles should be similar. Hope flickered across VA's features. You think you can help them? I know I can. He squeezed her hands, but I'll need to know more about beetle physiology and what chemicals are safe for them. They spent the next hours in Violet's small study, poring over agricultural manuals and biological texts. Eric absorbed the information quickly, drawing parallels to Earth species and formulating a treatment plan. The parasites are attracted to the milk's chemical composition, he explained, sketching a diagram. If we create a compound that mimics the milk but contains a toxin harmful only to the parasites, we can draw them out without harming the beetles. Via watched him work with undisguised admiration. You're remarkable, Eric. Thornon, most beings would have taken Krell's offer or simply waited for transport off this moon. Instead you're fighting to save my farm. Eric looked up from his notes, meeting her gaze. This isn't just your farm anymore, Bylum. Not to me. The intensity in his eyes made her speckles pulse with light. She moved around the table, sliding onto his lap with fluid grace. Show me again, she whispered against his ear. What makes humans so special? Later, as they lay breathless on the study floor surrounded by scattered notes and diagrams, Eric chuckled. If this is how Stellarians brainstorm solutions, I should have crashed here years ago. Baya traced patterns on his chest. It's not standard procedure, I assure you. You bring out unconventional approaches in me. Good. He kissed her forehead. Because we're going to need some unconventional approaches to save your beetles and deal with Krell. As the largest moon reached its zenith, they finalized their treatment plan and began preparing the compound that would hopefully save the herd, and with it Vio's livelihood and their newfound happiness. The treatment worked better than either of them had dared hope. By the third day the beetles were recovering, their shells regaining their lustrous sheen and milk production slowly returning to normal. Eric and Vala had worked tirelessly administering the compound to each affected creature, their hands moving in perfect synchronization. The last dome is clear, Eric announced, emerging from the structure with a sample container. No sign of parasites in any of the specimens. Violet's speckles pulsed with relief as she embraced him, unconcerned about the beetle milk staining his bare chest. You saved them. You saved everything, Eric returned her embrace, bearing his face in her silvery hair. We saved them. Your knowledge of beetle physiology was crucial, but your earth science made the difference. She pulled back her eyes. Serious, this wasn't just about my farm, Eric. I've been thinking about what you said about Krell being too careful to leave evidence. It made me wonder if he's done this before. Eric nodded slowly. I had the same thought. A man like that doesn't start with such an elaborate scheme. He works up to it. Exactly. VOT led him toward the farmhouse. I made some calls while you were treating the last dome. 3 other small farms in the region have experienced mysterious production problems in the past year, all shortly after refusing to sell to Krell. Inside, Viola pulled up a holographic map on her communication console. Here's my farm. She pointed to a glowing dot. And these are the others who've had issues. 4 more dots illuminated, forming a rough circle. Eric studied the pattern. He's systematically taking out the competition, working his way around the region. His eyes narrowed. Classic military encirclement strategy. This one, Violet indicated a farm to the east, belongs to Marinol. She lost half her to a similar parasite infestation 6 months ago, and this one, she pointed to another, is run by Dravpel. His beetles developed a mysterious illness that made their milk unsellable for 3 months, and let me guess, Krell offered to buy them out when they were struggling at a fraction of their value. Violet's expression hardened. None of them could prove anything, so they had no recourse. Eric paced the room, military tactics flowing through his mind. Alone, none of you can stand against him, but together. My thoughts exactly. Vela's speckles brightened with excitement. I've invited them here tomorrow. If we pull our evidence and resources, we might finally stop him. Eric grinned, pulling her close. I knew there was a reason I liked you. Smart and strategic. Only one reason. Vela teased, her fingers tracing the contours of his muscled shoulders. Well, maybe a few more. His voice dropped to a husky whisper. Care for a demonstration later? As they lay tangled in VA's bed, the glow of her speckles illuminating the room like distant stars, Eric found himself contemplating a future he hadn't imagined possible a week ago. The thought of leaving this moon, of leaving her, created an unexpected ache in his chest. Your quiet, Ba murmured, her cool fingers tracing patterns on his chest. Just thinking about Krell, about us. He turned to face her. My transport was headed to a mining job. Nothing special, just good pay, but this what we have here feels like something worth staying for. Violet's speckles pulsed brighter. You'd consider staying even after the comm relay comes back online if you'd want me to. He brushed a strand of silver hair from her face. I'm pretty good with beetles. It turns out the best I've ever seen. She agreed, her voice soft with emotion. And not just with beetles. The next morning, 4 hover vehicles approached the farm from different directions. Violet greeted each arrival warmly while Eric prepared refreshments, conscious of the curious stares his human presence attracted. Marintal was a stocky Stellarian female with darker blue skin and practical farming attire. Dravpel was tall and lean, his speckles arranged in straight lines rather than the random patterns of the females. The other 2 farmers, Henbro and Kilvin, were a mated pair who operated their farm together, their speckles occasionally pulsing in synchronized patterns that Eric found fascinating. So this is the human who's got Krill all worked up, Marin said, appraising Eric with frank interest. Word spreading about your beetle handling skills and other skills, I'd wager, Drav added with a knowing glance at Vioa's faintly glowing speckles. Eric felt a flush creep up his neck, but Violet merely smiled. Eric's talents are numerous and impressive, but more importantly, he's helped me understand what Krell has been doing to all of us. As they gathered around Vio's kitchen table, Eric explained his findings. In theory, the parasite species is non-native to this moon. It had to be deliberately introduced, and the pattern of farms affected creates a clear strategic picture. Krell's trying to dominate the entire sector's milk production. Hen concluded, his arm protectively around Keela. Exactly, Eric confirmed, and he's using illegal methods to do it, but we've never been able to prove anything. Keela pointed out the Agricultural Authority requires substantial evidence. Eric smiled, producing the sample container from the previous day. That's where human thoroughness comes in handy. I've preserved specimens of the parasites, documented their life cycle, and can testify that they're not indigenous to this ecosystem. The farmers exchanged hopeful glances. For the first time, they had tangible evidence against their common enemy. There's strength in number, Eric continued. Individually, your complaints might be dismissed. Together with physical evidence, the pattern becomes undeniable. Drav leaned forward, What exactly are you proposing? Human Eric's eyes met vast, finding encouragement there. A coalition united against Krell's tactics, and I have a plan that might just catch him in the act. A prismatic Queen Keela's eyes widened, her speckles flashing with excitement. Those are incredibly rare. The milk from one could fetch enough credits to buy 3 farms. Eric nodded solemnly as the coalition gathered around Baja's kitchen table. My transport wasn't just carrying me, there was a secure containment unit with a prismatic queen larvae bound for a research facility on Proxima 4. He pulled up a holographic image showing a beetle similar to Vio's herd, but with a carapace that shimmered with every color imaginable. The containment unit survived the crash. Drav asked skeptically. These things are built to withstand atmospheric entry. Eric explained, military grade. I've been keeping it hidden, but the larvae is about to mature. She'll need proper care. Violet played her part perfectly, her expression a mixture of awe and concern. A prismatic queen's milk contains compounds that can extend lifespans by decades. No wonder they're so valuable. And no wonder Krell would do anything to get his hands on one. Marin added, catching on quickly. Eric suppressed a smile. There was no prismatic queen, of course. The image was a clever fabrication he'd created using Vla's agricultural database, but the bait needed to be acquistable for their trap to work. We'll leak the information strategically, Eric continued. Make sure it reaches Krell through channels he trusts. He'll think it's insider information, not a deliberate plant. Hen frowned. What stops him from simply offering to buy it legitimately? Pride, Bella answered after Eric rejected his offer. Krell's ego won't allow him to approach us directly again. He'll try to steal or sabotage instead. And when he does, Eric concluded, we'll be waiting with recording devices and the agricultural authority on standby. The group spent the next 2 hours refining the plan. Marin would casually mention the Queen to a supply dealer known to have connections with Krell. Drab would modify the farm's security systems to appear functional while actually creating blind spots, obvious entry points for anyone conducting surveillance. As the meeting concluded and the farmers departed, Eric felt a familiar tension in his shoulders, the same pre-mission anticipation he'd experienced in the military. Vela noticed immediately, her cool fingers kneading the tight muscles at the base of his neck. You're worried, she observed, cautious. He corrected, plans like this have a lot of moving parts and a lot that can go wrong. Vela moved to face him, her hand sliding down his bare chest. Is that the militaryman talking or the farmer? Eric chuckled. I'm hardly a farmer yet. Her speckles pulsed. So you're still considering staying? He caught her hands and is more than considering. If we pull this off, when we pull this off, I want to build something here with you. The intensity in his eyes made Violet's entire body glow softly. You humans don't waste time. Once you make a decision, do you? Life's too short, Eric murmured, pulling her closer. Even with prismatic queen milk to extend it. Her laughter was cut short by his kiss, and soon they were lost in each other, the worries of their plan temporarily forgotten in the heat of more immediate desires. Later, as they lay in the afterglow, Vela traced the scars on Eric's shoulder, remnants of his military service. Your plan has Krell coming here to my farm. To us, I'm not afraid for myself, but for you. You've already been through so much. Eric kissed her forehead. This is different. This is protecting something worth fighting for. And what is that exactly? She asked, her voice soft. A future, he replied simply. One I never expected to find. When my transport crashed, the next 3 days were a flurry of preparations. They installed hidden recording devices throughout the farm, focusing on the special dome they'd prepared for the fictional prismatic queen. Eric constructed a convincing decoy beetle with parts salvaged from his crashed transport, its shell coated with reflective materials that mimicked the holographic image they'd shown. The coalition word spread exactly as they'd planned. Twice they spotted surveillance drones at the farm's perimeter, clumsy attempts at reconnaissance that they pretended not to notice. He's taking the bait, Eric confirmed on the third night. Reviewing the security feeds, those drones have mapped every centimeter of our perimeter. Vela leaned against him, watching the screens. How long until he makes his move? Tonight or tomorrow? The Queen is supposedly reaching full maturity in 2 days. He'll want to act before then. As if on cue, an alert chimed softly. One of their motion sensors had detected movement at the farm's eastern boundary. Right on schedule, Eric murmured. Switching to that camera feed, a sleek dark vehicle had landed just beyond their property line, its design clearly optimized for stealth. 3 figures emerged, their forms obscured by light-bending camouflage suits. Is that Krell? Viola squinted at the central figure, who appeared to be directing the others. Has to be the height and build match. Eric activated the farm's communication system to everyone in position. Confirmations came in from the Coalition members hidden throughout the property, the Agricultural Authority Enforcement Unit alerted earlier. Confirmed they were standing by just out of detection range. Now we wait, Eric said. His arm around VA's waist let him get deep enough into the trap that there's no denying his intentions. They watched as the intruders disabled what they thought were the farm's primary security measures, actually decoys Eric had installed, and made their way toward the special dome. He's heading straight for it, Vila whispered, her speckles dimming with tension. Eric nodded, his expression grim but satisfied. Greed makes people predictable, even alien people. As Krell and his accomplices approached the dome housing their fabricated queen, Eric felt Violet tremble slightly against him. He squeezed her hand reassuringly. It's almost over, he promised. By morning Krell won't be a threat to anyone's farm ever again. VA turned to him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the security monitors. And then Eric smiled. I think it's time you learned how humans milk cows. You've got the technique down for beetles. Let's see how you handle Earth livestock. Her speckles pulse with amusement in something deeper. I look forward to the lesson, Professor Thornon. On the monitor, Krell reached the dome's entrance, his triumph about to turn into defeat. Everything happened in an instant. Krell and his accomplices breached the dome's security, their light-bending camouflage suits shimmering as they approached the fabricated prismatic queen. The moment they attempted to extract the decoy beetle, Eric gave the signal. Lights flooded the dome and the coalition members emerged from their hiding spots. Krell dove in. Eric announced through the dome's communication system, you're being recorded committing agricultural sabotage and attempted theft, both Class 1 violations of interstellar agricultural regulations. The Agricultural Authority Enforcement Unit materialized at the dome's entrance, their uniforms gleaming in the harsh light. Krell's accomplices immediately surrendered, deactivating their camouflage suits and raising their hands, but Krell himself reacted with unexpected speed. In one fluid motion he drew a small weapon and lunged toward Vioa, who had entered the dome with Marin. Before anyone could react, he had his arm around her throat, the weapon pressed against her blue-speckled temple. Nobody moves. Krell snarled, his polished demeanor evaporating. I'm walking out of here or the farm girl dies. Eric froze, his military training wearing with the fear gripping his heart. Vila's eyes locked with his, her speckles pulsing rapidly, not with fear but with determination. You've lost, Krell, the Agricultural Authority commander stated calmly, adding kidnapping to your charges won't help your situation. Shut up. Krell backed toward the dome's rear exit, dragging Violet with him. My ship is waiting. Once I'm safely away, I'll release her. Eric's mind raced. The rear exit led past the main beetle enclosures, the ones housing Vela's actual herd. A plan formed instantly. Let me talk to him, Eric said to the commander, who nodded reluctantly. Krell, Eric called, keeping his voice steady, you're making a mistake. The queen isn't real. It's a decoy we created to trap you. Krell's face contorted with rage. You're lying. Check it yourself. The beetle's shell is made from parts of my crash transport. As Krell glanced briefly at the decoy, Eric caught VA's eye and made a subtle gesture toward the beetle enclosures. Her speckles flashed once in understanding. Even if that's true, Krell hissed, I'm still leaving with her as insurance. He continued, backing toward the exit, Violet stumbling slightly in his grip. The moment they passed the first beetle enclosure, she made her move. Eric, she cried, the emergency release. Eric lunged for the control